They came at midnight, headlights off, boots crunching over gravel, the hiss of gas and the whisper of Spanish words that sounded like death. By sunrise, everything he'd built was ash. His wife, his land, his peace, all gone. But they made one mistake. They didn't make sure he was in the fire. And by the next sunset, he wasn't a rancher anymore. He was something else. If you love stories of justice served cold, hit subscribe, because this one burns hotter than the Texas sun. The night the cartel came, Marcus King was halfway through patching a busted fence post. The smell of hay, dust, and diesel hung in the air, the kind of scent that came from years of hard work and never giving up. His ranch stretched over 100 acres of stubborn Texas land, dry and rugged but full of promise. The cattle were bedded down. The windmill creaked slow and steady, and somewhere a coyote called out against the distant hills. Marcus was a man who liked quiet. He'd earned it. After a lifetime in the Navy, 15 years with the SEALs, 10 in operations he didn't talk about. He'd traded chaos for soil and sky. But peace is fragile when you're a man who's seen too much. It started with the hum of engines. Faint, far off, but wrong. Trucks. Heavy ones, coming up the back road no one used unless they meant to be unseen. Marcus straightened, the hammer frozen in his grip. His wife, Lila, was still inside, her soft humming drifting from the kitchen window, the radio low, the smell of cornbread just starting to rise. Marcus walked toward the porch, boots silent, every sense coming alive like they had 1,000 times in combat. He slipped his old Colt, .45 from its holster by the door, and listened. The truck stopped. Engines died. Silence stretched. Then, men talking. Spanish. Quick. Nervous. Not the kind of nervous you hear from lost travelers. The kind that comes before violence. Marcus moved fast. Cut through the side of the barn. Found cover near the tractor. He saw them before they saw him. 6 men, black scarves, rifles glinting under the moonlight. The lead one lit a cigarette, nodded toward the house. Marcus's gut turned cold. They carried jugs, fuel. He was already running before he realized it. Shouts rang out, "Fuego rapido!" And flames burst against the side of his home. He could hear Lila scream, faint and terrified. Marcus charged through the smoke, lungs burning. A gun went off, another. Splinters and glass showered him. He dove through the kitchen door, shouting her name, but the fire was everywhere. The heat punched him in the face. He found her near the hallway, coughing, trying to reach a framed photo of their wedding that hung crooked on the wall. He grabbed her hand, pulled her close, dragging her toward the back. A man stepped through the doorway, one of the cartel soldiers. Marcus fired once. The man fell hard, hitting the floor with a dull thud. "Go, go!" he shouted, pushing Lila through the back door. She stumbled out, barefoot, choking. He turned for the rifle rack by the wall. A second later, an explosion threw him across the room. The propane tank in the kitchen went up, ripping the roof apart. When Marcus came to, the fire had swallowed the ranch. He was outside, face in the dirt, the smell of smoke in his hair, skin burned raw. The air crackled with gunfire and laughter, the cartel men torching what was left. And then tires screeched, trucks revved, voices barked in Spanish. They were leaving. He pushed himself up, dizzy, searching for Lila. He found her near the fence line. She wasn't moving. He fell to his knees beside her, the flames reflecting in his eyes. Her fingers were curled around that wedding photo, half burned, her smile still visible under the ash. Marcus didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just sat there until dawn, the fire dying down around him and the land turning cold again. When the sheriff came that morning, he found Marcus still there, staring at nothing, soot across his face like war paint. "Marcus," the sheriff said quietly, taking off his hat. "I'm sorry, man. We'll find who did this." Marcus didn't answer, because he already knew who did it. 2 weeks earlier, he'd turned away a man who came offering protection for the ranch. A slick talker with gold chains and snake eyes. Said his friends could make sure the cattle didn't disappear, that his shipments kept running smooth. Marcus told him to get off his land. Now that same man had sent fire in his place. That night, Marcus buried Lila behind the hill where the mesquite trees grew thick. No words, just silence and wind. Then he opened the storage locker in his barn, the one no one knew about. Inside were crates he'd sworn never to open again. His old SEAL gear, his weapons, maps, tactical radios. He looked at them for a long time, then whispered, "I tried peace." The next morning he called an old number, one that hadn't been dialed in years. "King?" a gravelly voice answered after 2 rings. "It's me," Marcus said. "I need a team." There was a pause. Then, "You in trouble?" "They burned my wife alive." Silence. Then, "Where and when?" Marcus exhaled. "South of the border. I leave tomorrow." By the time he hung up, he'd packed light, black fatigues, combat vest, satellite maps of the Sinaloa corridor. He stood by the ashes of his home one last time. "Layla," he murmured. "I'll see you when it's done." Then he walked away. 3 days later, 15 men met him at a safe house in El Paso. They weren't just soldiers, they were ghosts. Retired SEALs, Delta, Recon. Men who owed Marcus their lives from missions buried deep in classified archives. "You sure about this, King?" "Ask Torres, a tall, scarred operator who'd once saved him in Fallujah. We hit Cartel ground. There's no backup, no flag." Marcus looked up from the map. "Wasn't any backup when they came to my house either." Torres nodded. "Then we ride?" They rolled south that night. No insignias, no mercy. 15 men in a convoy of blacked-out SUVs, crossing the border under cover of darkness, following the trail of a cartel boss known only as El Lobo de Wolf. Their first stop, a small town outside Chihuahua, half run down, half terrified. Locals said El Lobo's men came through weekly, taking what they wanted. Marcus stepped out of the SUV, scanning the street. Kids played soccer barefoot in the dust, stopping when they saw the strangers. An old man approached cautiously. "You're not police," he said in Spanish. Marcus answered in the same tongue. "We're here for the Wolf." The man's eyes went wide. "Then you will die." Marcus shook his head. "Not today." That night, they found the first lead, a weapons dealer named Romero, who supplied fuel and guns to El Lobo's soldiers. Marcus caught him at a roadside cantina, 3 bodyguards at his side. Marcus and Torres entered quietly, unarmed, sat at the bar. 2 tequilas, Marcus told the bartender. Romero glanced their way, curious then cautious. Marcus turned, raised his glass. "To men who think they're untouchable," Romero frowned. "Do I know you?" Marcus smiled faintly. "You burned down a ranch in Texas, killed a woman. You know me now." The room froze. Romero reached for his gun. Marcus was faster. A clean disarm, a sharp elbow, a broken wrist. Torres took the other guards down with precision, no wasted movement. Marcus leaned close to Romero's face. "Where's the Wolf?" Romero's breath came shallow, fear cutting through his swagger. I don't know. He moves every week. Safe house near the mountains, maybe coordinates," Marcus snapped. Romero stammered them out. Marcus nodded once. "You won't be needing your business anymore." They left him alive, tied to a chair with a note pinned to his chest. For Lila King. By dawn, the team was already en route to the mountains. The radio crackled softly with military chatter, calm, clipped, professional. But inside, Marcus was a storm. He replayed the night over and over, the laughter, the flames, the way Lila reached for that photo. Every detail burned into him like shrapnel. Torres glanced over from the passenger seat. "You sure you're ready for this, brother?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "I've been ready since the fire." They crested the ridge by midday, overlooking a compound tucked into the foothills, ringed with concrete walls and armed patrols. It was El Lobo's nest. Marcus studied it through binoculars, trucks, guard towers, a main villa, probably 40 men total. 15 of us, Torres muttered. "Odds are bad." Marcus handed him a smirk colder than the mountain wind. They were worse in Fallujah. They moved at dusk, ghosts slipping through dust and shadow. And when the first guard dropped without a sound, Marcus knew one thing for sure. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about balance.